Major breaking news. Despite Donald Trump's threats, the Indiana State Senate has rejected the Trump-backed gerrymandered map, leaving the existing map in place. Donald Trump's been threatening all of those state senators in Indiana if they voted against him. Then you had the Heritage Foundation's Political Action Committee. They've been posting, we're going to go after you in Indiana. We're going to make you suffer. And, and then Don Jr. posted, but we just learned in the past 30 seconds, we could report this major breaking news. Indiana State Senate has rejected the Trump-backed map. Cohen, what's your reaction to that?
Not surprised, to be honest. I think everybody right now is concerned about this entire gerrymander. You do it when you're required to, which I believe is every 10 years, but these mid-term gerrymanders, especially the one that I found to be the most the most grotesque was the one in Texas, where they actually came out and they said, yeah, we gerrymandered based upon race, absolutely, and yet they still approved it. It's very hard for me, to understand that sort of ideology, that sort of belief system where you're actually looking to limit an individual's right in terms of electing their official based upon the color of your skin or based upon your ethnic origin. I just find, I really always believed that America was traveling in the right direction, on the right road. And we have now, over the course of the last, I would say 7 years, we have absolutely 100% made a U-turn. And we're flying down the highway, literally going the opposite direction. Thank goodness for for other states holding it. Thank goodness, that we were successful in terms of California, who did it right, despite the fact, I think a lot of the nonsensical back and forth with the trolling by even Governor Newsom. I think it's funny as hell, and I think whoever's doing it for him are clever. But I don't think it helps our cause at all. These sort of things, they just don't do. They don't, we get a good giggle from it, but this isn't what's going to get us what we need in 2026. And I want to say one more thing about that. If we are successful, like we were just yesterday in Miami, Florida, that we have all the momentum now. Don't distract us with stupidity like putting Trump and everybody else in a bunch of orange jumpsuits. That's great during a campaign for him. Look at these numbers right here. Eileen Higgins beat the living piss out of Emilio Gonzalez, right? 60-40. 60-40, the first time in 30 years that a Democrat has held the seat of Miami. And why? Because it's all about affordability. It's all about ICE. It's all about these failed programs that are constantly being put out there by people like Russell Vought or Stephen Miller, or the lies that are coming out of this administration. Trust me when I tell you, this is what we should all be talking about. How we stay active, how we stay informed, how we keep our foot on the gas and keep just steamrolling them in just about every election that's going on right now.
It wasn't just in Miami, right? You had in Georgia a special election for House District 121, where the Democratic candidate Eric Gissler defeated the MAGA candidate Dutch Guess IV. The Democratic candidate won by 2 points. Cohen, in 2024, Gissler, the Democratic candidate, ran and lost by like 40 points in 2024, and then ran again and won by 2 points 1 year later in that same district. Also, that, just to be clear with people, that's a state house district. That's not Congress. I don't want people to get confused. Matter. That's the Georgia state representative. But that area was gerrymandered as well. And lots of people are referring to what Trump is doing as a dummy mander, which is one of the reasons it was rejected in Indiana. A dummy mander is kind of like when you have a dummy United States attorney like Lindsey Halligan who doesn't secure these indictments when you can indict a ham sandwich. But in a gerrymandering sense, Trump is basing these gerrymanders on a data set from 2024 when Trump basically defrauded the Hispanic population and young people into believing that he was going to make things affordable on day one and make them rich. But now that we've seen massive shifts among both those cohorts, young people and Latino people, and even other groups as well, but you're seeing big shifts there, 40-point shifts. So when you do a gerrymander these ways and you want to get rid of a Democratic seat, what you ultimately have to do is dilute some safe Republican seats to try to turn the Democratic seat into a red seat. So let's just say that there's a House seat that's a plus 22 Trump seat, and you have a blue Democratic seat that's like a plus 5 Democratic seat. You may have to bring down that plus 22 to say a plus 16, and then try to get yourself a seat there in the newly created district that was a plus 5 Democrat. But in doing that, that plus 5 plus 6, based on the current results, that likely turns Democratic anyway. And now that you've brought down a plus 22 to a plus 16, that's within the margin of what we're seeing the overperformance numbers be for Democrats. So now you may have actually given Democrats 2 seats right there. And that's why in a lot of these states, they're saying, whoa, should we be doing it? And to your point, Cohen, what Governor Newsom did in California was so important because it trained these MAGAs to know, okay, Indiana, you do that, guess who's going to do it? Virginia's going to do it.
But the difference, though, is Newsom actually did it by law, whereas Texas did not. They didn't run a proposition to ask people, which is completely and totally different. But here's the interesting thing also that I want everybody to get behind and understand. Texas went ahead and gerrymandered with the expectation based upon AI polling data from Trump's 2026 campaign. 2024, that if they gerrymander, move this block here, or create that one gigantic district that's over 500 miles long, that we will be able to control the votes and the seats. Well, again, what did yesterday's Miami mayor's race show? What did New York, New Jersey, Virginia, Minnesota, and so what have they now shown? No, that's wrong. In fact, people are concerned when you have a billionaire president turn around and say things like, you don't need to buy your kids gift, or maybe, at most buy them $2, not 20. That's easy coming from a guy who couldn't tell you what the cost of a gallon of milk is. All right. That's not what the American people want to hear from their leader. And I'm going to be very clear. I wouldn't be surprised, not in the slightest, if many of those gerrymandered districts in Texas end up flipping. Because here's the thing that you can't bullshit people on: how bad it hurts in their pocket, or what they're unable to pay for their children. They can't get them new shoes, new pants. They can't get them a new winter jacket. They can't send them to school with money, or they can't let the kid go on a school trip because they don't have the extra money within which to pay. People don't forget that crap. And I'm telling you, when you're dealing with a state like Texas, and there's a lot of poverty in Texas, there's a lot of money there too, but there's a lot of areas that are poor. And let me be very clear. When you're hurting, who are you blaming? You ain't going to blame Joe Biden for this. Nobody's buying that shit from Trump anymore. All right. They're turning around and they're saying, it's that guy right there.
Want to stay plugged in? Become a subscriber to our Substack at MeidasPlus.com. You'll get daily recaps from Ron Filipkowski, ad-free episodes of our podcast, and more exclusive content only available at MeidasPlus.com.